Morning traders. Well, this is a speed update. Yesterday we had all sorts of data coming out. We had PPI from the States. We had inflation from the UK, which was high. PPI in the States was good, much better than expected. The Bank of Japan didn't raise their interest rates, and we got a massive move in the Japanese yen. It basically went the other way to what we expected. We'll talk about that shortly. But let's have a look at the individual currencies, and then we'll quickly have a look at the dollar index. Euro, we got a rejection off this resistance level yet again. That's 5 days in a row. And we had 5 wicks of all at identical height, forming a sort of quadruple tweezer top yesterday, last week. And then yesterday, we rejected off the same level, coming just a little bit higher, 10 pips higher, but still sort of a fifth tweezer top in a row, and then a big spike high or wick type candle. So there's hope for a move lower in the euro, just to bring some relief and correction to this long uptrend that we've had, and we're probably due for it. Same sort of thing on the pound, but not as convincing. Is it possible that we've got a double top on the pound? I don't know. We'll be looking at the pound carefully today, perhaps with a view to sell this. You can see there's so far, a double top rejection off that level at 1.24, 1.2440. Bit of a spike high. That's not a reversal candle just yet. We've got a higher high and a higher low compared to the previous days. In fact, we're stair-stepping all the way up here. And it's not surprising that we rejected temporarily, at least, off that level, because it's a very important level, very key resistance level. We're above all the moving averages, and one swallow doesn't make a summer. So let's see what happens on the pound. Euro looks a bit more hopeful, of course, because of the pattern that we've formed there against this resistance, and yesterday's candle a lot more convincing than the pound. Australian dollar looks good. Big spike high. Almost, well, not quite, but definitely a dark cloud cover attempt in terms of a candle pattern against resistance at 0.7, which is just a nice round number, really, and we've begun to move lower. We've taken advantage of this not by selling the euro US dollar, but by selling the euro yen. Not by selling the Australian dollar US dollar, by selling the Australian dollar yen. We'll have a look at that when we get to the yen pairs. And then Dixie, well, dollar index, I don't know. Your guess is best as good as mine. Leave a comment in the comments section if you'd like to comment on this. But we did reject off that support yet again. Do we have a double bottom? 2 days out of 3, we've rejected off this level. A big spike low, going through, false break, back up again. I always like false breaks because it just basically a mechanism clearing out hands, adding more fuel to the long fire, and we've moved back up again. But have a look across to the left. You can see dollar index has a habit of pretending to form a bottom, which doesn't last, and we see over here, for example, at the 103.50, 20, 30, 40, 50 level, lots of reversal candles, a fake sort of move higher, and then a bust through that support. Yesterday we tried to break through this support, but we didn't manage to hold beneath there, so there's hope that we'll get a recovery in the dollar. We've got this long downtrend with very little correction, as I've mentioned in previous videos. So let's see what happens with the dollar. And if this manages to continue upwards, then we'll be looking generally to sell majors against the US dollar. That would include euro, the pound, the Aussie, perhaps the Canadian dollar. Looking at the euro CAD, this one, well, we're still looking at short positions here. I'd like to see a double top at the moment. There's one thing going for this, and that is that we've got a shaven head candle here. That, believe it or not, is, so in other words, there's no wick. That actually is a reversal candle. So we'll be looking for potential opportunities to sell against this previous resistance going back to the middle of December. Shaven head, it's a bullish engulfing candle, but it's also a shaven head. So we don't know what's going to work out there, but we'll see what happens. And I guess a lot of it will have to do with dollar index, because if the euro and the pound and the Aussie and so on begin to fall quite rapidly, they might fall against the Canadian dollar too. Pound CAD, very bullish. Aussie CAD, again, like the Aussie's been weak. It's weak against the CAD. It's weak against the yen. It's weak against everything else. And that's the euro Swiss franc. Don't want to talk about that. But let's have a look at the yen pairs. So the US dollar yen, we had this big move up on the dollar yen when the Bank of Japan didn't inflate their interest rate. I expected they wouldn't, because this price has moved down closer to where they're comfortable, and so there was no need for them to really do anything. But we saw terrible numbers coming out from their economic news, and we saw this big move up, 300 pips. We took a big profit on that, and then I thought this would hold and continue moving higher. But all we did was we touched the 20-day moving average and then began to plummet down again. And it's not looking great for the dollar yen. And we might get down to 126 or even lower, as I expected. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that today. But what has been useful for us, remember yesterday, if you have a look at yesterday's video, not only did we buy the dollar yen, but we at the same time sold the Australian dollar yen, and we made a really good profit on selling this one, because this moved up perfectly into the pattern. This one I'd like to sell again today. Moved up into that pattern, touched the 50-day moving average, just poked through that trend line. And I said, don't worry, in yesterday's video, don't worry about it poking through the trend line. Could reverse, and it has. And we sold this, took some good profits on that. We got out at the end of play yesterday around about this 20-day moving average. That's the 50, the red one, green one's the 20. And overnight again it's moved down. So if we get a little rally, I think any rallies on Aussie yen are good to sell, because we're looking for this pattern to complete, as I keep on saying, and once we get through this low here, we should see a decent drop on this pair down to the 80 to 81 level, and that's where we're heading, and that will form a beautiful completion of a classic textbook crown pattern. So the other one that we could look to sell actually is the euro yen, and I'm looking at this one carefully after this video. If we get a break beneath the support on euro yen, we'll be heading down, I guess, to the next ledge lower. So that's an important one for us, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. Again, it depends a lot on what happens with the euro. We'd like to see some euro weakness, essentially, against the CAD, against the yen, against the dollar. Whether we'll get that today or not, we'll have to watch closely. I'm not going to worry about the others too much. We sold gold and silver yesterday. We took some good profit on silver. I've just closed the gold trade. We did take a little bit of profit on that. Once again, I'm not convinced that these have formed a top. If they do, gold should move back down. Let's just talk about gold, not silver. We're still looking for a move back down to about 1,800 on gold. Whether we'll get that or we'll have to make a higher high up to 1960, maybe even 2000, believe it or not. Who knows? It's not a good one to sell at the moment. We've got no clear signs of reversal. We do want to be buying down around 18,000, and we do want to be selling if we get up to about 1960. Right now, we don't want to diddle in the middle with gold. Could go anyway. Same with silver, really. Although silver looks much better for a topping pattern, I think we'll stay away from metals for today. Natural gas, just a little bit lower, not much, just poking through that support. The actual real support number in natural gas is actually a little bit lower compared to where we are right now. So right there, and we're just on that right now. So if you're buying natural gas along with me, we'd like to see this hold above 3.25. $3.25. We'd like to see that hold there, but it's possible we could try the 3 level, but somewhere around here I'd expect natural gas to find support. Sugar beginning to move lower. We sold sugar at that level right there at the top, so we're short on sugar right at the top. That looks good. Soybeans, we're waiting for this to rally. Have a look at yesterday's video and my video on soybeans for more details on that. Nothing to say about soya apart from that we're waiting for this to get up into this well, I suppose salmon pink orange colored zone. And then Bitcoin, as I said, I think Bitcoin will move lower. Don't want to spend too much time on that, but what I do want to talk about is this very interesting pattern on NASDAQ and S&P. I think this might turn out to be a double fake out, because S&P has actually respected this level, and no one thought it would. Everyone thought it would at first, then they thought it wouldn't, because everyone was looking at the same thing, and then it was a matter of will it, won't it, will it, won't, no, it probably won't, it's probably going to rally, probably going to take out the shorts. The shorts started bailing, the longs started piling in, option traders started putting on puts and calls and all sorts of things, and volume dropped off, everyone got confused, and actually at the end of the day, despite, funnily enough, the really good PPI number, when I say really good, relatively really good, the market has dropped. Whether this is going to be a quadruple bluff and we're going to get a big rally today or not, I don't know. I really don't know. I think, this might be a bear trap. I honestly am completely confused by the stock markets. Same goes for NASDAQ. A little bit of a move down, bearish engulfing type dark cloud cover candle, but also not convincing, and just hovering around that 100-day moving average. So today's going to be very interesting with stocks. When it comes to news, there's not an awful lot coming out. Let's just have a look at what's going on. So we had Bullard speaking yesterday, all this sort of thing. Then we had more stuff coming out of Japan, a bit more positive news actually during the night. It's just passed during the night, our time, during the day, Asian time. A bit of news coming out of Australia, which wasn't great, and that's driven the Aussie down a bit. But let's have a look forward at what's going on today. And there's not an awful lot until really we get to 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, and that's when we see building and permits and housing starts come out. This will be really interesting. I think we could get a lower number on housing starts and building permits, and that could actually be dollar bullish, funnily enough, even though it would have been dollar bearish a month or two ago. In fact, I think the market's very confused when it comes to housing and when it comes to jobs, because the next thing in line at the same time this afternoon, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, is jobless claims, and all eyes are on jobs. Every single time there's a jobs number, the market reacts, and but really not much has happened. So probably about 200k jobless claims, as it has been. In fact, if anything, we might get a slight improvement. So, all very interesting. But going back to the charts, the interesting thing today will be what happens with the S&P and NASDAQ, because we don't know if this is going to be a quadruple bluff now or not. I'm going to be looking to sell these into rallies, at least. Give that a go. Look at the US 30 on bank news, not good. Big move down on there, down to the support trend line. So that's going to be interesting to see whether that can hold. But I think the big players today, the euro, pound, Australian dollar, all against the US dollar. Can the dollar index hold? That's going to be the question. And if so, if we do get these dropping down, are we going to see the same thing against the CAD? Certainly seeing it in the Aussie already, but will the euro drop against the CAD? Will the euro drop against the Japanese yen? What's going to happen with the dollar yen, given all the news? And really, this should be rallying. If you have a look at this chart, it's not all that totally bearish, by the way. This hammer candle here, it's not quite a hammer candle because we do have a little wick at the bottom. That's actually not in itself a totally bearish candle. Bear that in mind. We could get a move up from this level in dollar yen. And then Aussie yen, we're just looking for this to continue to sell in rallies. I think I've said enough. Have a fantastic trading, and I'll speak to you soon.